Hi, and welcome to Design Resilience. My name is Rachel, and I am happy to welcome you to this corner of the internet where we talk about building daily habits and practices that give you the foundation that you need to get through changes in life. And I personally am an avid reader. My husband is he's an award-winning author. And so he is part of an organization called the Fiction Lab. And through his affiliation with the Fiction Lab, I get introduced to up and coming authors that are, I think, going to change the face of genres that they are contributing to. So my husband is he's like sci-fi fantasy, military kind of fiction there. And because of him, I got to meet Ashley Kim, who is our special guest today. And she has written a book. It just launched February 4th. I got an advanced copy, which I am so proud of and excited about. And that's what we get to talk about today. Ashley is on the episode today, and I'm so excited to welcome her as a guest. I read this book in just a few hours over a couple of days, and I know I'm going to have to go back to it. Like, it was so engaging. I had to go all the way through it, but I need to go back chapter by chapter because there's so much goodness in it. So I don't want to talk anymore. I want you to meet Ashley. So Ashley, will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your decision to bring Villain Era Goddess to the world?
Yeah. All right. Hello, everybody. I am Ashley Kim, and I'm so excited to be here and excited to meet Rachel. I talk about her all the time with Chris, very good ways. So I'm so excited about this. I started writing Villain Era Goddess about 2 years ago. There's a big long history of why I did it. I am a neurodivergent, witchy woman who hasn't really fit in anywhere. And throughout the years, I had to make some hard moves in life, setting boundaries, getting divorced, moving, like doing a bunch of things. And I had a really hard time finding, therapists, self-help books, YouTube videos, like anything that could help. That felt like it was speaking to me and that could really help me move forward. And all the things are good for other people, but for some reason for me, it wasn't really connecting. And then throughout my process, I started leaning a little bit more into the kind of like witchiness of all of it. And that's where I was looking for therapists. That's why I was looking for help. And suddenly my world kind of opened up to all of these things that we can do, rituals and, journaling and shadow work and all these things that we could do. And then I started making bigger moves and healing myself. I was getting more confident, setting boundaries with family. If you are, in one of those families where it's blood's thicker than water, family comes first, who are you going to rely on at the end of the day? Like, you're going to be like very fear based on with your family. And basically they're allowed to do anything to you because you don't want to do anything to lose them. And so that's where I came from. And so while I was, just on my journey, kind of fumbling around trying to figure stuff out, I kept hearing the same message over and over of, you're a bad person. Why are you doing this to your family? And I had to keep picking myself back up. And I was all by myself. I was divorced, single mom, all by myself. And I was doing this over and over and over, it felt like. And then, like I said, I started to get into some other, there was she calls herself a chaos witch, I think. And she is neurodivergent. And the way that she taught was like it all registered inside of me. And so then I was using a lot of her practices, and then I did an inner bonding workshop, which was really cool. Um, and so then I did get to the point where my friends started to notice that I was different, and some of my family started to notice. And it wasn't just Ashley fumbling around anymore. It was like Ashley's taking no shit now. And so then my friends were like, "Well, how did you do it? Like, what did you do?" And I would tell them, like, I cut my family out. I said, "We're not showing up if this person comes in." And they're like, "But how did you do it? Like, what exactly did you say?" And so then it was like, oh, I have to give like really specific examples. And none of my examples were like pretty at all. And I think that is when it started to dawn on me that as women, whenever we set a boundary or we do something hard, the message that we get back is that we didn't handle that very well. Like, we could have been kinder, we could have had more grace, we could have been forgiving. The message is always that we did not handle it well on our end. And that was when it kind of clicked in me of that's what I'm doing differently is I am giving my very messy examples. I haven't done anything perfectly at all. And so that was like, I don't know, that's what clicked in me is that's it. We get to give ourselves the same allowances that we're literally giving everybody, and we can do it in a way where we don't take shit for it. And so that was kind of the start of my book. Um, and then, some of my friends would be like, well, what exactly did you do after you got in an argument with this family member and you didn't, now they're upset with you and you have to live with that and things like that. So then I started talking about like cord cutting and, just different things I was doing. And they're like, what is that? And so then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start putting it all together and putting it in a book. And then, yeah, that's kind of, it all blossomed out of that. I, when I got your list of questions in an email, I went back. I have this book that I think I've had this book for 10 years. And every year I write whatever my big thought is at the beginning of the year, the middle year, and the end of the year. And so I went back and looked in that because I had a page in here that was all about my book. And this is what I literally wrote at the top, how all of this started. And then I said, I blame the year 2008 because that is when I set my first ever New Year's resolution to never make a decision in fear. And then that has always kind of been like my kind of go-to of like, am I going to move forward in fear or not? And so that, kind of helps me keep moving along of, am I going to keep my mouth shut and just sit here quietly because I'm scared of the outcome? If the answer is yes, then it's time to get up and be loud. So anyway, I saw that and it reminded me of our call that we had coming in that question. So yeah, sorry, that was a really long answer.
It's brilliant. I love it. First of all, I love that it began maybe in 2008 or so, that this is not something that you just had a quick idea, you wrote it down, you talked to some girlfriends, you went to some therapy, and like this is a time, like you've been on this journey for a while. And I love that you stayed committed to it. I love that it's evolved. The thing about the way it came to be. So, you're having these experiences, you're moving out of fear, testing these things with your family, now having to handle the fallout of those
Mm-hmm.
things, watching your family and your friends notice. When you began to organize your thoughts around putting this together, one of the things I loved about the book is that you would wrap up a chapter and I felt like, okay, that's a pretty framed out bit of my personal experience coming from a similar Southern family and trying to find my own way to own the space. So I post all the books I read on LinkedIn. And when I posted your book, I put that I'm a woman who's looking to own the space she fills. And because
Hmm.
that's what your book
Yeah,
helped
I
me
love that.
I wanted to
Hmm.
do. And the next chapter, like I'd read a chapter and be like, okay, yep, got that. The next chapter was like, oh my God, get out of my head. Like, you took the path that you talked about topics that I think a lot of women's empowerment books do, but then it was the next level of like, oh no, you've lived this. That next conversation I'm going to have with my whoever. Did you know the path you were going to take with the layout of your chapters from the beginning, or did as you write something you're like, oh, I got to talk about this next thing, and did it morph as you took it through?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it did morph a little bit. I did come in with the like the idea that I was going to, at the end of the day, I just want women to have permission to be fully themselves, like protect yourself however you can. It doesn't have to be pretty. Like that's the whole point of it, right? And so I wanted each chapter to give women that permission, but then I did want to whatever topic I was talking about, I wanted to remove the shame behind it. So that was like my overall goal for each chapter, remove the shame, give an example of my own messy self navigating that exact same thing, and if I could, try to talk about how an example of how I remove shame or how I move forward myself, and then in the chapter with either a activity or an affirmation or just something that, because for me, I'm a very anxious person, and I feel like I need to do something. And so it's like if I have a topic and something I want to work on, I want something right now. Like, is it just a journal prompt or is it something? Just give me something because I can't sit with this in my head and then go make dinner, or I can't sit with this in my head and go pick up the kids. Like, I need something to do with it. And so that was kind of like my very loose outline for each chapter was to move forward that way. And then I don't want to trigger anybody. I don't want anyone to, I call it like, pulling people into your own haunted house. I didn't want to do that. So I did want to walk the line of like, here's my example, but I'm not going to like give you every little detail that's going to make you not sleep at night either. So yeah, that's kind of how I outlined it. And then as far as like morphine and moving around, one thing that I did do while I was writing it is the first time I wrote the chapter, I would put everything in there, like the anger, the details that I'm going to take out. I put everything in there. I would put names in there, like because it was also like my purging. And then I would go through, I would remove those, and then my editor would help me, like, oh, you forgot one, or this, you might want to take this one out, stuff like that. But yeah, I think I tried to kind of sort it out by what are the big themes that I had to navigate? I had to navigate, my external family, my family in my house. I had to navigate confidence, the boundary setting, the anger, the friendships. Like there's a lot of things you navigate. And unfortunately, it all shifts around on you while you're doing any kind of work. And so I I tried to outline the book in the way of like, first of all, it was like how I went through the journey, but then I realized that my journey is a little bit different. So then I tried to kind of chunk it out of like, if you're going through your villain era, here's some things you might see first. Like, how do you know you're in your villain era, or how do you know you're ready? And so kind of started that way. And then I wanted to move into, okay, you're ready. You're ready to start pissing some people off. Now, here's the tools that you need to do that. And then it's like, how do you know when you're done? Because first of all, you're never done, right? And so that's the other reason why I wrote my book to be my own guide as well, because I know there's going to be a time when I'm like, I don't know what to do about whatever, and I can be like, oh, duh, cord cutting, or writing in salt, whatever, burning bay leaves. But sometimes you forget in the moment. And so I also wanted my book to be that for me too, of like, oh, I'm freaking out. What do I do? So yeah, just kind of, and then at the end, like I said, I wanted to be like, you can be done. You don't always have to like look at yourself and think, man, I want to change this today. Like you literally can be like, I still have typos in my emails. I still lose my shit. Like I still do all these things, but I'm still a goddess. Like I'm still who I am. I'm still worth everything. Like I don't know. I think that was one of my biggest realizations too. Like I don't know, like I said, 2008 is when this thing dawned on me of like, I make a lot of decisions with fear. And so that's a long time to like always be working on yourself. You should always work on yourself, but you shouldn't work on yourself as a form of self harm. And so that's why I wanted the end of the book to be like, you do get to celebrate where you are, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answered your
Dropping
question.
gems. Yes. Improvement should not be self-harm. Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, you executed that arc in each chapter for me beautifully because
Well, thank you.
you used enough of the story to draw me in and connect. I was like, yep.
Mhm.
And of course your brain starts spinning. You have the feelings and you're in there. And then as you closed with an activity and then the advice, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, and then the affirmation, it put the frame all around it. Like you painted this beautiful, vibrant picture. And I was like, I totally see it. I can get it. I understand this art. And then you like, kunk, kunk, kunk. And I was like, okay, I can put that together. And that
Yeah.
was amazing because it was helpful processing as I'm reading it. So
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so
absolutely.
much. And yeah, and that was one of the things I always struggled with reading a self-help book is it all felt like very high level and fluffy.
Mhm.
And I was like, but what do I do with it? Like, I don't know what to do with it. And sometimes I think too, like being a neurodivergent person, like we don't necessarily like read between the lines. We don't get the overall gist. Like we need someone to be like, dude, this is exactly this, like exactly this, and then take that and tailor it to your life. And so yes, that's what I want it to be like this exact thing right here. Like, do this.
Yes, you nailed it. You nailed it
Thank
because I'm a little spicy myself. So, yes, you nailed
Yes,
it.
yes.
So,
Yay.
before we kind of talk a little bit more about the content, you published. It is live and in the wild. February 4th, I think, was the date.
I think so. Yeah.
Amazing. How does that feel? You've birthed
Yes.
a movement. How does it feel?
Scary as hell. I am very proud of myself. I'm a like for being I'm kind of a loud, like say anything awkward person, but I'm also private at the same time. So it's like kind of a contradiction. So to put myself out there was super scary because I am kind of private about like the stuff that I want to protect, right? And you have to like open that up and just kind of let everyone see, like, okay, this is it. Like this is what I wrote. This is my voice. And so super scary, but also very proud of myself because I don't know, when you're writing a book, you meet a bunch of people that are like, I'm also writing a book. And I don't mean like the fiction lab, like these people are writing books. I just mean in the grocery store, like your Uncle Jed, like they're all, yeah, I could, or it's like I'm writing a book. Oh, I could write a book, or I'm going to write a book too. But no, it's never like, oh, like that's really hard work. Congratulations on that. No. So it's like people don't realize unless they've done it how hard it is. And then now that it's done, um, I can also like when you're in it, when I'm in it in something, I don't want to be like, this is so hard, I can't do it. But then when it's done, I'm like, yeah, that was hard. Like, damn, I did that. So yeah, super excited. I did self-publish. So I had to learn how to do all of that, which was a whole other thing. And I'm still learning, by the way, because I've made a ton of mistakes publishing this book, but that's fine. But I'm also proud of that too. Like I I didn't want any barriers for this to get out. Like if I want this to be in the hands of my friends, I didn't want one barrier in front of me. So I was like, I'm just going to go publish it. And I did talk to like some agents and stuff. And like the biggest message was like, you're a nobody, basically, like who's going to buy from you, which is true. I mean, I'm just Ashley from Iowa. And then another agent wanted me to change the title of my book to something like Cutting the Cord or something. I was like, that is so like boomer. So I was like, no, like if you get on TikTok, if you get anywhere, you're going to see villain era everywhere. You're going to see goddess. Like this is the title to use, in 2025. So, yeah, I did it all myself, and I am proud of myself. And yeah, I go back and forth between super fucking terrified. Sorry, I dropped the F bomb already.
Oh,
Um,
you're fine.
okay, 19 minutes in, got it, clocked it. And then yeah, so super terrified to like so happy. Um, One of the things that I wasn't prepared for, which is really weird, is when people are talking about you, it does send like a level of energy to you. And I didn't understand that until it was out there. And so that is something right now that I'm working on is like leveling that back out because in our house, I'm an introvert. My husband is an extrovert. So if you send extra energy into our house, I'm going to hide under the bed and he's going to be like, let's go do this. Let's go have fun. And so like right now our house is like, where I'm like, I'm overstimulated. And he's like, let's go party. And so I was not prepared for that like energetic level of like being out there a little bit more. And I'm not even that public yet. So I'm like, okay, I really got to figure out how to like balance this before, it gets even bigger.
That's all. It's a good call out, something that people might not um, understand. Because, similarly, like I started my YouTube channel and I was just like, I'm just going to do it because I serve, like you, it's going to be my guidebook. Like it's going to help me out. And, um, you want the big success, like you want to have the following and all of that, but not understanding necessarily it's going to come visit you at home and give you
Yeah.
energy and make it different. That's so
Yeah.
wise. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. And I never thought about it until just the other day. I was like, why am I so off balance? Like, what is going on with me? And I was like jittery and I'm like, what is it? I have not changed anything in my life. And then it occurred to me, like, like if someone's talking bad about you, you do feel that. You feel like a something, or if someone loves you, you feel that something. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad, but it is like that extra energy. And I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder famous people are on drugs all the time. Like this is a small amount, but it feels like a lot. And so yeah, yeah. So anybody out there, just be ready for that and be ready to balance it because I mean, I want success too. I want you to have success too. Like we do want that, but yeah, just get ready.
Yeah, it's coming for you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's dive into some of the like I'm so excited to talk to you because I just read it and I, love book clubs and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is kind of like we mentioned, you ended the chapter in a very specific way. So there was consistency, you'd walk into this emotional thing and you'd have this way out. And you did something I've never seen before. You wrote permissions. Permissions to, I'm getting goosebumps right now. You wrote permissions to feel what I felt as I read your story, to claim the new part of whatever you had used to help you get through that situation. And I absolutely loved it. Tell me about the process of determining the permissions and like kind of how you came to having that as part of the writing of the book.
Yeah. And thank you for that. Okay. So this is going to be my really messy answer because I wasn't it has so many nuances in it. So we'll just see what comes out of my mouth right now. Um, so one of the things that has really helped me just in my messy journey is my sister, and I mentioned her in the book a few times. You know, we've had kind of our relationship has never been perfect and it's wonderful now, but you know, as kids, we went through a lot together and that is messy. But one of the things my sister always did for me is if I was going through something, especially like with my divorce, and if I felt like I didn't handle something well, she would like literally pull me in and be like, "You can do this, and this doesn't matter." And like she would just get in my face, and it would be like the most aggressive pep talk that I'd ever been a part of. But I would walk away like, "Fuck yeah!" Like I'm gonna go wrestle that person to the ground. I'm gonna tell, you know, like it always helps me. And I realized that she was giving me a permission. Like she was giving, which, you know, obviously you don't need, we're all grown ass women, but you kind of do at the same time. And so, yeah, she was giving me that permission. And obviously, you know, no one ever gave her permission to do anything like that. You know, she just did it, but she saw that her little sister needed someone to be like, yeah, you can be messy. You can go do that. Just go do it. Like, go do it. And, or if it was after the fact and be like, oh my gosh, I said it this way or did that, she'd be like, so, so you did it. Like, who cares? And so I wanted to pass that off to other people because it helped me so much to get that permission and get like that little pep talk, you know, right before you go into battle to have someone be like, you can freaking do it. Like, I know you can. It's not going to be pretty, but I know you can do it. And like, yeah, we all need it, I think, anyway, that little pep talk.
Yep. You got me all tight in my throat chakra here. The communication between sisters, like, yep, that's stepping in and being there. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what I felt when I read that part. And
Good.
it was a few sentences at the end of each chapter, but it was
Yeah.
so impactful. So thank you for taking that
Thank you.
cue.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we both insinuated that we are and stated out loud that we're witchy woman. And
Yes.
it was evident, as you kind of mentioned in the way that you got to the book and through the writing, that there was a lot of self-discovery, shadow work.
Mhm.
Um, when I was brought up in my family that I feel like had parallels to yours, we were exceptionally Protestant religious. So if that was something that you had similarly,
Mhm.
how did was the journey of learning about these kinds of more in touch spiritual practices and then being able to use them as the way you navigate life. So I absolutely connected to the cord cutting and the writing and salt and the burning bay leaves and all of the things because I've also been on that journey of transition. Like this is how I can the church didn't really serve me
Yeah.
anymore and I needed something else to hold on to
Mhm.
and this worked. What was that like for you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, my journey with all of that. So, first of all, I grew up in one of those evangelical churches where people are like screaming and shouting and running around and doing all the things. And like, if you're not matching that energy, then like God isn't blessing you. It's just weird. And so, yeah. And I grew up with if something bad happened in your life, you're not praying hard enough. Like, you know, it's almost like that kind of like victim blaming mentality of, you know, like, well, what'd you do? Or what didn't you do? And so, but what kind of got me into it, and I'll be really quick on this story because I could talk for like 2 hours on this, but my first kiddo, so I have like seen ghost spirits, stuff like that my entire life. I have been open to that my entire life, but growing up the way that I did, it was either my imagination or it was the devil or it was something, right? And so then here comes my super precious, innocent son and he's pointing out the people that are standing right beside us that no one else can see. You know, he's playing with kids no one else can see. He's doing all the things. And I'm sitting there like, oh, it's not just me pretending anymore. Like I need to actually protect him. Like I need for him to know that he's not weird, like he's normal. And so to do that, I had to start doing like all of my own research, which is super hard, by the way. If you see ghosts and you see other things, it might not be as hard now, but this was like back in the day. I want to say 2000, yeah, probably 2008, 2009. Um, if you looked up like how to live with ghosts or like anything like that, you're just going to get like weird ghost stories. You're never going to get someone who's like, this is how you do it. So it kind of took me on this journey of, and we were like kind of going to church every once in a while. I was hating it. We would go in and, oh my, it was horrible to sit through. But I did ask the preacher because I did like him. I was like, we're moving homes. I would like to move without the ghosts. He was so freaked out. He did not even want to step into our house. And I was like, well, if you're scared, then what am I going to do? Like, you're supposed to be the one who knows this. Like, what do I do? So anyway, I start doing all of my own research and start doing all my own things. And then also I wanted to know, like, well, how do I protect myself even? Because I couldn't even do yoga without like little kids poking at me that, no one else could see but me. And like, it was a lot all the time. And we lived in a house that at the time that had a portal in it. So you would like just see people walking through that did not look human at all. And so I just needed to figure my stuff out. And then that like got me on onto this path. And I fought it the whole time because I thought the word witch was so egotistical. Like I didn't, and I was so against any religion. So I did not want any answer that pointed to a religion. And then I didn't want any labels at all. Well, everything that I did was under witchcraft. Like, like at the end of the day, when I looked up the history of what I was doing, that's where it was. I was like, okay, I'm going to like break down whatever barrier it was on why I don't want any terms or labels. And I'm just going to dig into this. And that's kind of how I got into that. And then I started noticing too, is like, as I'm helping my friends, I'm even talking about cord cutting, even though like technically some of that is under like that witchcraft label, it still isn't really. It's just energy work. Like that's it. And you can do that under any religion. I mean, they do. And so it was like I wanted to put that in the book of these super safe, very personal things that you can do. And it's not praying because praying isn't the answer. I'm sorry. It just isn't. Like getting on your knees and begging is not the answer. So, here's what you can actually do. And even if you do go to church and you do believe in God, getting on your knees and begging still isn't the answer because if you do believe in your God, then your God is going to give you what you need. So go freaking do it. Just go do it. Stop begging. Anyway, that's a whole tangent that I could also talk about for an hour. So yeah, that's kind of how I don't know, got into that witchy side, out of my Christian religion into that witchy side. And then, yeah, well, I wanted it in the book. And I didn't want it like anyone's face because there's some books you pick up and you get like a whole chapter on what witchcraft means. I'm like, I don't even want to talk about that because that's not the point. The point is like, I'm just going to use some of these little things, in the journey. That's it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliantly placed. I think it is perfect to address that kind of anxiety need to, because I'm the same. If I get overwhelmed, I need to work, I need to do. And it was perfect to have that there and to feel like you had efficacy, right? Because, I also grew up praying and you're right. It was getting on your knees and begging, and I was doing all the talking. And it was, but there was at the end, you're just like, I hope I'm good enough to get what I asked for. Like, yeah. And these things gave me a feeling of moving through, which is what I wanted to do in the prayerful. I wanted to move through the thing.
Mhm.
And so that's brilliant. And I'm so glad that you found, my sister, she shared a quote with me. She was like, isn't it amazing that you born forgetting who you were and you found it again?
Mhm.
Like, isn't that so
Yes.
cool?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that
Yeah.
for us.
Yes, I
um,
love that too. That is good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, brilliant. Um, so we've you mentioned that messy, and I agree that I've also been messy in my healing and things. So that part, it's like, well, that's part of life. But what are you most proud of that is now true of you that maybe not was before you started this journey, as a result of going through your villain goddess era?
Yeah. I think what I would be most proud of, and that's an excellent question, and I should reflect on this more, is I am more untouchable, not in like a stuck up, don't be my friend way, but in a I don't care how I come across while I'm setting my boundaries. I just don't anymore. And so there are going to be times when I am very kind and sweet and I'm going to hold someone's hand and talk them through it. And there's going to be other times where I snap back and I don't feel bad anymore. And I'm really proud of that. Like it took forever to get there to be a little doormat who used to run around and make everyone happy to just sit there with everyone's discomfort and not try to help anybody. Like, I'm proud of that. It took me a really long time to get there. Um, and, one of the really cool things that came out of this was I love my mom so much, and I was so scared of like, well, how is she going to? First of all, she's seen me doing this, right? Like we've worked very closely together to continue to mend our relationship as I continue to set boundaries, because she's my mom and my daughter's gonna have to do this with me someday. Like I get it all. But at the end of the day, she's proud of me. So even though I'm causing extra work for her, extra headache, she doesn't understand where I'm coming from half the time. And we sit down and talk, and she watches me like snap at a family member or a cousin or an aunt or uncle. And I mean, she just sits back like, yep, that's her. That's just what she's doing. Like whatever. But I don't I don't know. It doesn't sit in my gut as long as it used to. It's kind of like sometimes I kind of celebrate it like, I probably shouldn't have said it that way. I get it, but I'm so glad I did. Like I am so glad I did. And I love it. I think there should be some celebration in that whole villain title just for a little bit. I don't think that we should live there forever because, after a while you should just morph anyway. You should change. But there should be some celebration in having the confidence to be like, yeah, that's those emotions are your emotions, they're not mine. Like, I don't, however you want to feel about it. And on my mom's side anyway, there are some people very upset with me, and they each have reached out individually to my mom. I want to talk to Ashley. I want to talk to her. Like, I'm going to call her. And my answer is always, they can email me as long as they include every single other person on the family, and I will answer whatever questions they have very honestly. But everyone has to be on there, and it has to be through email, so it's all documented. Nobody has done it yet. So
I love that. Like, if you're going to be nasty, you got to be nasty in front of everybody. Like, you don't just get to be
right.
nasty to me.
Yeah, because what are you going to say to me on the phone that you wouldn't want to just present to the whole family? Like, if you really are a victim of me, put it out there. Tell it to the rest of the family. Do it. Send it to everybody, and I'll
Yes.
answer. Nope, nobody wants to do it yet. So here we are.
That's brilliant. I love that because I absolutely can relate to the overanalysis and the overthinking and the
Mhm.
what have I done to my prospects, and like with whether it's professionally or personally, like how is this going to haunt me later?
Yep.
And you've built that confidence and belief, like I know who I am. I'm going to be
Mhm.
fine, whatever
Right.
that person decides to do with that information. That is
Yeah.
sounds like freedom. Sounds like freedom.
It is, yes. And I will say I do have to keep relearning it. So like when I build that confidence, I build it around one thing. So like I build the confidence around setting this boundary with family, right? Or I build a confidence around setting boundaries with my clients. But for example, I was just talking through this with my editor yesterday. I had to work through like a new trigger because I am getting a lot of really good feedback about the tone of my book and the voice and blah blah blah. And people keep saying gritty, I think it was. And I was like, is that bad? Because to me, I was like, does that mean it doesn't sound finished? Like, does it sound like I didn't go through, like I didn't edit the book or whatever? And she's like, no, that just means that like, she's like, every author's striving to do that. But I did have to like then go back and be like, okay, now I have to kind of build that confidence around the feedback that I'm getting, which I thought I was fully prepared for, by the way. I was like, I got this. I don't care what anyone has to say. And then I like get the feedback and it's good feedback. And I'm like, did I mean? So like, and I don't know. And I think that's like part of the point of all this is that it's messy and you're never perfect. And like, and why I still need my guidebook. Like I do need to go back and be like, okay, so what am I going to do about it? I'm going to journal about it, get it out of my head. By the time I'm done journaling, I realize this is the dumbest freaking thing I could ever even worry about. I'm just giving myself something to not be happy about. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I'm proud of all that. I did it.
That is something to aspire to for sure. I'm glad you're proud of it because it is something that is desirable. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And to continue to come at it and not be frustrated, like, oh, I have to learn this lesson again. No, it's a different context now. And I am okay with moving into that space. Um,
Yeah.
my next question, you've illustrated perfectly that this is not a book to be passively read. This is a book. I mean, you can read it through from beginning to end to get the full concept and realize how closely it can relate to you and your story, me and my story, I mean. Um, but if I will go back and I will spend time with each lesson and walk through it. it's probably too much to summarize, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. If you could summarize in a couple of sentences the through line of this book, knowing that
Mhm.
it's not something you just read and put down, that you come back and visit over and over again, is there anything you hope that people in the other end of your book get out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I would, in a couple sentences, I would say that I want women specifically to take up space, like you were saying, you're gonna fully take up your space, right? I want women to take up their space. And even if you do it scared, even if you do it screaming, crying, whatever, as long as you're taking up your space and you're sticking up for yourself, that's what I want out of this. Like tap into what some people are now calling like the dark feminine. Really, it's just being a woman. Because we are not like prim and proper and all roses all the time, right? But yeah, I want women to like, you don't even have to do it confidently, but just take up your space and know that you're worth it. You are worth every horrible, hard thing that you have to do. And you are worth every horrible conversation you have to have. Like, you really are worth it. And you have to realize that you are more worth it sometimes than the people that you're talking to. So, and the only time I would say that's not true is if it's like you have children or a spouse, like you do have to take them in consideration. Otherwise, put yourself first because you've probably never done that before. So go do it.
Absolutely. Yes. That the audience that's going to resonate the most with this, I think that's absolutely for sure true. So you're changing and change lives and you're changing and working. So what's next? What do you got? You got more books in you? You gonna do something else? You gonna teach classes? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, so I need to figure that out. I'm currently working on a very short, probably just be an ebook called Surviving Sludge Mode. And that one will be about, the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis, turns into sludge, right? Before it's a butterfly. We do the same things before we emerge into whatever our next level is. But usually, like, you're sludge in your little cocoon for quite a while, and you don't really know, like, what you're going to be when you come out. And so I wanted to kind of write just a very short book on what do you do when you're in sludge mode. You're not proud of being sludge, right? You know you're going to be a butterfly soon, but like when? Is it next week? Is it 2 years? Like when? And how do you survive that and stay upbeat and kind of keep your goals in mind and things like that? Because I don't know, I think we're all, especially lately, it seems like the last few years, like sludge mode is either very long term for some people or they're getting hit more often than they used to. And so, how do we do that? And then I'm also putting together a glow and grow journal because I talk about like the glow and grow stuff in the book. And so this would be a monthly journal where you do have like the daily things you can write in, but it also just has new and full moon rituals, a craft for every month because I do really believe that staying creative is like one of the best ways to just get through crap in life. Um, and shadow work prompts. I think that's it. Yeah. And then the last thing I'm working on, because I need like five things to do, is I'm doing daily oracle card spreads for the anxious witch, because that's what I need. So I'm putting it together. And then if someone else wants to use it, they can too, but that's what I need. And then yeah, I'm in the fiction lab, so I'm going to try to be as cool as Chris and write a story that sounds good.
That's awesome. I love that. I have always heard that the most successful things are the things that come out of your need. Necessity is the mother of invention. And so you create these things and then you find that you're resonating with so many other people. So I love that. I agree that the creativity is the way, it's a really good way to stay grounded.
Mhm.
In a recent meditation, um, it got this kind of message that like I was consuming too much information,
Mhm.
consuming too much opinion, and it was because I was needed some clarity on a situation. And the message was you need to create, you need to make, you need to not listen and then look for things outside of you. And then this is I don't know if you do chakra work, but I thought this was kind of funny because I have a really long history with Winnie the Pooh. Like I grew up loving it. I had a lot of the stuffed animals and stuff. And so the color of your sacral chakra, which is where the creativity and all that comes from, is supposed to be when it's healthy, it's orange. And so in my meditation, it showed me my sacral chakra, and he looked like Eeyore. And he was like, "Thanks
Oh.
for noticing me." It's like, oh, I let you get gray. And he's like, I'm supposed to be like Tigger. I'm supposed to be bright and orange and bouncy
Hmm.
and creative. And so I feel like that's a very true tool that women in this journey need is because I'm not a traditionally creative person, like a super linear thinker, super like I'm creative if I'm solving a specific problem, but like just, Chris has all of the space things and like cool planets. And I just created an entire population. Like that's all him. I'm not there, but that's awesome that that's part of this. In addition
Hmm.
to all of the digging into the shadow work and everything, like, no, let's make
Yeah.
something, put
Yeah.
something new in the world. I love that.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have to be beautiful. And even like, I don't, for me anyway, being creative is like so, I don't know, I'm all over the place, right? So, like, for example, the last thing that I did that I felt really creative is I started infusing honey with like some of the herbs from my yard or like, thing, I don't know, just like getting wild with it. And yeah, so I think like, I don't know, creativity is different. It doesn't have to be visual even. I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And then, I mean, just the creativity of having a garden, having things that grow that you can put into food, like that's amazing. It's really good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And if you're like me, you can hide weird faces throughout your garden that people can find if they're digging in your herbs.
Little delights and surprises. I love it. Come back and like there, you could probably see it on their face. Like, should I ask her about the faces? Was I supposed to
No,
see
I know because I'll
those?
hear, oh, they found a face.
That's amazing. I love that. Always an adventure. I like it. All right. So as we kind of close out our conversation, is there anything that you would like the people listening to our conversation to know? Anything we haven't covered? Um, Anything like that?
Yeah. I think we covered a lot. I don't know. I just want the women and men too listening, to know that, like I said already, you're totally worth it. Like you are totally worth it. And unfortunately for you, you're the only one who can tell yourself that and believe it. So, tell yourself that. And then one of the things I think is like probably the biggest, I don't know, tool that you could like if there's only one thing you do out of this book, I think it would be the cord cutting ceremony because you can cut, which is cutting an energetic cord that connects you with somebody else. So you can cut that with a person, with a place, with a thing, with an event, with a trauma, like whatever you want to cut it with. And it is so powerful. I will cut them with people that I want to cut out of my life. I will also cut them with people that I just want to reset our relationship. And so I want to cut like the old, whatever the old stuff between us was, I will cut a cord with them and just let a new one grow. Um, it's also, I think, super interesting because when I do a cord cutting ceremony, sometimes I will be like, show me the one I have with my husband or my daughter or whatever. And then you get to see what a healthy one looks like. And then you start to realize how sick the other ones are. And so, like for me, my healthy ones align with my chakras, and they're thick. And then the unhealthy energy cords are usually like on my shoulders and my hips, and oddly enough, my hands and my feet. And they're like thin and like I don't know, just nasty. And I think like whatever the issue is, I think has to do with where it's at on your body. But it's super interesting to like look it over. And so even if like I have a client I'm not working with anymore and you know still like them or whatever, I still just cut a cord with them. Like I just if it's done, it's done. I just get it over with. Um, yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that's one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself is cut everything that's sucking the life out of you.
Yes, I did love the explanation because I've heard of like like with candles, and having the cord tied and watching it
Yeah.
burn. But
Yeah.
the way you described it was much more, I am making this choice. And I love the sort of um, power that comes with that decision to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have this. It reminded me of this process, but it's something as I go to sleep, sometimes if my brain is spinning, it'll like show me all of the times in my life I've ever been a jerk, like that's what it shows me instead of like the amazing thing that I had today. It's like
Yep.
go back 15 years and show you this time you were mean to this person. And so I did my own little kind of verbal. I was like, leave me the F alone. Like, this is not helpful. I was like, you're not allowed to talk to me unless you show me nice things, and those kind
Hmm.
of in the moment interceptions of
Yeah.
knowing I have the authority to say, you don't get to touch me. You don't get to
Hmm.
physically, emotionally, energetically, you don't get to be a part of my experience. And
Right.
then translating that into the moment to be able to have those conversations, tell your brain to back off, like all that stuff. Super powerful. I love that. The way you describe it and have certainly used
Yeah.
it since reading it. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. And I love that you argue with your brain because I do the same thing with mine.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm like, you
It's
just
not
got to stop.
helpful. Yeah,
I kind of being
kind
a
of being a
bitch right now.
jerk.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I do the
yes.
same thing. I don't know why we don't get the highlight reel at the end of the day. We get like the low light reel. I don't even know. Why is that? Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah. Like still to this day, I will be going to bed and be like, remember that one time you were giving a speech in front of like all of corporate marketing and you had a hole in the front of your pants and everyone could see your pink underwear? Like, why? Why is that what I go to bed with?
Completely unnecessary memory, but like, why isn't it the thing? That time I got to sit in a really fancy hotel bar and feel fancy. Like, why can't that be the thing that we look at when we're going to sleep? I was so glad I'm not
Uh,
alone in that. I hate that I'm not alone in that because it would be better if other people didn't do that. But like, I'm glad that's
right.
a shared thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, Ashley, this has been amazing. So I want to make sure that everybody who is watching or listening knows, where can they
Mhm.
get your book, Villain Era Goddess, now that it is available, I think both in physical copy and ebook. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. There's a print version, an ebook version. It's on Amazon. It's the print and the ebook are on Barnes and Noble now. I just saw that. I was like, oh, that's exciting. Yeah. And then the ebook is like anywhere you could get an ebook. So Apple, Kobo, I don't know. There's another one like something like that. Whatever Barnes and Nobles is. Kindle, yeah, all of those. You can get the ebook, and then yeah, the print book is. I didn't honestly. I didn't even think it was out yet. So, but yeah, you can get that at Barnes and Noble and on Amazon. I thought it was only on Amazon, but I'm very happy to be on Barnes and Noble too.
That's so amazing. That's so amazing. So amazing.
Yeah, because I thought
Um,
I had to like petition them, and then it's just there. I'm like, oh, cool.
Ta-da! They knew that this message needed to get in front of their audiences and they put it there. That's amazing. And with you, so people can connect with you. How can they
Yeah,
find you? Where are you
yeah.
hanging out?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm mostly on Substack and TikTok. If you on Substack, if you just go to villaineragoddess.com, then you will go straight to Substack. And on TikTok, I think I'm downright charming, and right is spelled Rite, like a ritual. And I don't know, I'm in like this in between stage where I have an overall brand called Downright Charming. That's what my book is published under, and I sell products under. I have stuff like that, so I didn't want to give that up. So yeah, just look for Downright Charming, or you could just Google Villain Era Goddess book, and you like all of my socials, Substack, everything pops up. But yeah, I'm everywhere.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited to introduce you to new audiences and to get
Thank
them
you.
walking this path of our villain era goddessness because it is the life preserver that we need to grab a hold of. It's amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time. I'm so grateful that we got to have this conversation.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me. And I'm glad that we get to chat. I was telling Katrina, my editor and Chris's editor, that I was like this close to pulling you into a group chat. I'm like, she's gonna be so overwhelmed. I'm gonna love like neurodivergent love bomb her. And so then I backed off.
Okay, Chris and I, we have that. Like we do the pebbling where we'll be literally,
Okay.
we're in the house together and we're just sending each other
Yeah.
like little
Yeah.
pictures or videos. So yeah, we
Yep.
parallel play where we're just like, yes, we are all
All
about
the
all of
things.
those ways to give each other, fill each other's cups. Yeah. So
Yes.
I would be honored to be love
Okay, good.
bombed
Well then,
in
yeah,
a
you'll be in the next
group
one.
chat. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found someone that you could connect to. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Bye.